If you're somebody that really struggles to fall asleep, even though you're really tired, and obviously that's impacting your energy levels, I want to go over some sleep hygiene that I think will truly change your life, because if you're sleeping better, you're going to have more energy, which will change your life outside of just take magnesium cream and use blue blocker glasses, which I think you should do both of those. But I'm going to give you some other things to kind of really think about when it comes to sleep hygiene. So you've probably heard blue light blockers, have the most beautiful, perfect bedtime routine, take magnesium before bed, have a cold room, get off your screens. I feel like you've probably heard about that. So sleep is a learned neurological response. And so if you have worked up so much hype around me not sleeping and the stress around it, that is going to in itself be a hurdle. Like your brain is constantly scanning for a threat. It senses danger, like stress, overstimulation. Literally, you're like, I never sleep. I need to go to sleep. I need to go to sleep. If you're constantly like, I have 2 more hours to fall asleep, and then I have 5 hours of sleep, and it constantly is in your mind. Of course, sleep isn't something you can force, but it is something that we can set ourselves up for perfect success. I also talked to a psychologist about this one time, Dr. Kevin Majors, and I did an episode with him a year and a half ago, maybe now. And he really talked about how rest can just be you laying there and resting instead of freaking out about sleep. And he said, you will notice a massive increase in your overall rest and your overall energy just by not worrying about sleeping. Okay, so number one, bed is for sleep, and that is it. Okay. That came out a little bit not the way I intended it to. But I mean, don't be reading books. Don't be watching TV. Don't be eating snacks. Like, I want your brain to think and remember, I go to sleep. I go to my bed. I pull on my covers. I lay down. It's dark. I sleep. Okay. Instead of I get in bed and I read, or I do all of these other things like eat snacks and watch TV, and our brain isn't associating it with sleep. Okay. We want to really make a pattern here. Okay. So let's before we get too much into those random things, let's talk a little bit about maybe some things that could be going on internally that are impacting it. Okay. So cortisol should come down. Melatonin should rise. That is what should be happening. But a lot of times we can have a cortisol dysregulation pattern due to blood sugar imbalances, maybe parasites, and that can be impacting you sleeping well. Okay. So sometimes we'll see this pattern with cortisol, for example. So cortisol should go up in the morning, go up a little bit more in the early morning, and then down at nighttime, and you go to sleep. But sometimes instead of that second down, it'll be like down, up. And that we will see from blood sugar imbalances is one of the clues for that. Parasites is another one, but it could be blood sugar imbalances. And this is actually really, really interesting because of the correlation with melatonin and insulin. Okay. So melatonin and insulin have an inverse relationship. So when insulin is elevated, melatonin is suppressed. So if you are constantly snacking before bed, really late meals, insulin is staying elevated to help get the glucose into your cells. So melatonin therefore is lower. This can delay your sleep, make it really struggle for you to fall asleep. This can reduce your sleep depth. This can increase your night wake ups. If you have an Oura Ring or a Whoop or anything that tracks sleep like that, that may be why it will say things like, hey, did you eat late last night, depending on your sleep score. Okay. That's why, in case you're wondering, what is the correlation between insulin and melatonin? I also think it's so interesting too, because growing up, you're always heard, don't eat late. It just goes right to your hips. You can't do it. It'll make you gain weight. And that never really meant anything to me, because I felt like there's absolutely no reason why that would happen in terms of it making sense. But the insulin and the melatonin, when I understand the science of that and how they have that inverse relationship, that makes sense to me why somebody would struggle to sleep if they are constantly eating and snacking before bed. So food for thought for you. Okay. So that is something that I would do to start working on that is try and make sure your last meal is 4 hours before you go to bed. Okay. And that doesn't mean you have to go to bed hungry. It just means you're going to be focusing on a very blood sugar balance, dinner. And you're going to really be making sure you're getting that protein, carbohydrate, the fat, the fiber. And if you are starving before bed or just gonna be ravenous in the morning, we need to look at your dinner, okay? Because we really want to be finishing that dinner minimum of 3, but I would really love 4 hours before bed. This allows that insulin to come down. It allows the melatonin to rise. It allows the cortisol to not be going, okay? So really take a look at your dinner. Like, do we need to bring in more fiber? Do you need to bring in more fat? Do you need to bring in more protein? All things that can be really very, 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 very useful here. Okay. And honestly, kind of simple when you think about it. Like, it's just changing around your dinner, pushing your dinner a little bit earlier. Okay. So, the next thing that I would kind of think about is training your brain, your sleep with consistency, not perfection. Okay. And oddly enough, so the brain loves patterns, and irregular schedules confuse our circadian rhythm. And inconsistency here is going to be more disruptive than late nights. And this is the part that is just makes people cry, is wake time matters more than your bedtime. So no matter how late you go to bed, you really want to focus on a consistent wake time. So something that I found really cool, again, when I was talking to the psychologist, is because he does so much with sleep, is that if your sleep gets disrupted or something along those lines, like little kid wakes you up in the middle of the night and you go back to sleep, but you constantly have this consistent wake time, your brain knows that and it speeds up your sleep cycles. I think that's cool. I mean, how cool is our brain? Our brain is so cool. Okay. And I'm not saying like if you are a mom with a little kid, like a baby, like a postpartum mom, and I'm talking about myself here when I was in the phase where they were up all the time. I just got sleep whenever I could, that's when I did. But I'm saying if that's not you and you aren't sleeping well and you need to focus on sleep hygiene, this is what I would be doing. Okay. I would be consistent with your wake time, even on the weekends. Okay. This is where we go, oh yeah, I'm consistent for like 5 out of 7 days or 4 out of 7 days. And then we just go all over the place. Okay. So wake time matters more than your bedtime. Okay. Eating at consistent times, especially that last meal of the night. So important, the timing. Similar wind down nightly routine. So your brain goes, oh, we're winding down for night because it recognized the pattern. So it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be this bougie nighttime routine. It just needs to be the same thing and it needs to be predictable. So if that means like for me, I love the app Refocus. It's free and it shuts down my work apps at a certain time of the night. I always like to do a little bit of red light before bed. So that's like my brain signal. I do the loom box and I'll put it on the back of my neck, base of my skull here before bed. And so that's one of my patterns. And it can be as simple as you go in and you brush your teeth and you put on some lotion and you put your hair up and you put your pajamas on and you do the same thing and the same routine. That can be your nighttime routine. It doesn't have to be, I drink tea and I read a book and I do these yoga poses. I don't really care what you do. Just make sure it's consistent. Okay. And something along those lines, if you're someone that's really struggling with sleep, an odd thing that it's not odd, but something you can do is actually a really hot bath or a really hot shower because it raises your core body temp. And when you get out, your body temp drops rapidly. And this mimics like your natural temperature decline that happens before sleep. And so it can help activate that parasympathetic nervous system. And also it can help increase melatonin release. It can also signal to the brain that it's time for bed. So it's not the warmth that makes you sleepy, even though it might. It's the cool down afterwards that actually does it. So, but it doesn't have to be like scalding hot, but 20 to 30 minutes before bed doing that is going to be really, really helpful. Okay. So you guys, I feel like even if you just implemented the dinner and the consistent wake and maybe you add in a hot bath here, you're just crushing it. Okay. And Okay, this one I know we talked about a little bit with in terms of dinner, but blood sugar is really important for sleep hygiene. I know. Have we ever had an episode here, you guys, where we don't talk about blood sugar? I, I don't know. Have we? Okay. So, blood sugar, when we don't want to be spiking our blood sugar right before bed. Okay. So, that's number one. Focusing on blood sugar balance, especially, well, all your meals, but for dinner is going to be so important because sometimes you go, oh, I'm going to undereat a little bit. I'm trying to lose weight. And then you end up on snacking a ton in the evening hours because you didn't eat enough for dinner or earlier in the day. And you're starving, and then we're spiking our blood sugar. Things are going awry, and then that's going to therefore impact your sleep. Okay. So really making sure you're getting half your plate, non-starchy veggies, getting that fiber in, getting your protein in, getting a minimum of 30 grams, and then getting your fat and carb. So half your plate veggies, quarter protein, quarter fat and carb. Okay. I do actually love a starchy carb for dinner, like a sweet potato or some potatoes or lentils or something like that. Very satiating to the body and also going to be therefore supportive of your sleep. Okay. So, and then obviously you can do the boring things like the environmental signs to your brain that it's time to add to your ritual of sleep. Okay. We talked about just making sure your routine is consistent, but if you're looking for like outside environmental signals or signs is like dim your lights after sunset or turn a lot of your lights off, doing that warm shower or the hot shower, turning on like music, relaxing music, just having those consistent things that you do every single time. Okay. And these really aren't like hacks for your sleep. It's just creating that ritual that is going to be really, really helpful. Not scrolling in bed, not drinking caffeine late in the day, not doing workouts right before bed. That is actually going to impact your sleep. And then even if you're just sleeping and you're laying there, you guys, and you literally just go and imagine relaxing your toes. And then when they're fully relaxed, you imagine both of your feet, being totally relaxed. And then your ankles and the rest of your leg. And literally just imagine. You can even tighten it and then relax that muscle. Tighten and then relax that muscle as you go through and feel your entire body relax as you slowly, slowly do it. Okay. So literally it's a skill for sleep that you can relearn. Okay. So that is where I would start in terms of that. And then obviously, let's go over some of the questions, or not obviously, but let's go over some of the questions that I get a lot of times around this. So does caffeine impact my sleep even if I drink it early? It actually can. So there's two camps of people who process caffeine really fast and people who don't process caffeine really fast. So caffeine blocks adenosine, which is your sleep pressure hormone. Stress slows caffeine clearance as well. So if you're somebody that doesn't clear caffeine really fast anyway, yeah, I would play around with having like no caffeine if you need to see like if that makes a difference, even if you're used to drinking it early in the morning. What happens if you are someone that is really, really tired in the morning, but you feel wired at nighttime? That's like the classic circadian rhythm disruption. Okay. So where I would start with is getting your morning routine or getting up at the same time every single day. Go outside, get sunshine on your eyes, get your feet on the ground. Okay. And just make it consistent. And then obviously we talked about the other things that can be supportive, like blood sugar balance throughout the day is a really great way to support your cortisol patterns, not making sure you're not overstimulating later in the day and at nighttime with caffeine, or under fueling during the day would be another one. So really get up at the same time, get your breakfast in, get some sunshine on your eyes are a great way to start supporting your circadian rhythm. What if you're also someone who goes like, but no matter what I do due to adrenal issues maybe, or I need to eat before bed, or maybe you're someone that has parasites. So think about a few things. Like, are you eating before bed because you're truly hungry and you've tried increasing dinner? And it's like, no matter how much I eat for dinner, I'm totally full, can't eat anymore. I'm still starving before bed. Or maybe you actually sleep really well if you have like a little snack before bed to support your adrenals. So if you are that person, I wouldn't like white knuckle hunger, just because you're starving, and just push through it. I would do like a mineral rich adrenal supporting snack. So I wouldn't do something super high glycemic. But for some people, like an apple, even though it is, sitting there, maybe a green apple, but an apple has some fiber in there. If you leave your peel on, even more fiber, and put some nut butter and then put some Celtic sea salt on it. That may be something that really helps you sleep well. Or for some other people, maybe a cup of bone broth because of the fat. I mean, not the fat, the protein in there would be really helpful, or a hard boiled egg with the protein and the fat. I would play around with seeing which one does better for you if you are completely starving. But I would also just work on increasing your dinner, and slowly keep increasing that gap until you can have those couple hours before bed that you aren't eating, is going to be really, really helpful. Okay. What about melatonin supplementation? So melatonin is a hormone. I think that's important to do. And I just don't really think that it's a long-term fix overall when you're dealing with sleep issues here. It's more like a crutch. And if you're going to use it as a bridge as you work on other things, great. But I wouldn't look at it as a solution to a sleep issue. It doesn't stabilize your blood sugar. It doesn't lower your cortisol. It doesn't support your nervous system or any of those things. But all of the other stuff that we worked on works on all of those things. So if you're using it right now currently as a bridge as you work on all of the other things, then please do that. But don't use it as like a permanent Band-Aid crutch. Okay. And sometimes we get asked because the scrolling, they're like, it calms me down when I'm scrolling. Okay. But at the same time, it can make you feel like a little bit wired, even though you're tired if you're scrolling on your phone. It stimulates dopamine. Okay. So that is a big reason why we may find it calming for your body in that sense. But it also can activate your stress response because you're literally fading into everybody else's drama. And we're just like 30-second video, go, 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 go. Okay. Not even talking about the blue light. Okay. And then what if I'm doing everything right and I'm still not sleeping? Okay. Now let's go look further. Do we have extreme mineral depletion? Calcium is a really big one. Not utilizing calcium well, not levels of it, but not utilizing it well is a big one that impacts sleep. Maybe there's some hormone imbalances going on. Maybe there's some chronic stress patterns. Maybe there's a lot of blood sugar instability, but I would say sleep is really like a root problem. There's something that's impacting your sleep that we can dig deeper into, and we can do that. If you want to do testing and all of that, we can do that in the hormone reset program. Just go to bit.ly/HRP free call. We can chat all about that. But if you're looking for when should I see significant improvement here, can you give yourself the new routine, the new support, and give it 7 to 14 days consistently, and see if you notice a difference? You probably will. Chances are you probably will.